So welcome to this Q&A session with Georgina. Georgina is a qualified nutritionist, and she's here today to answer your questions about nutrition and diet in pregnancy. So just a little bit about myself and about Georgina. My name's Erin. I am a hypnobirthing instructor at Better Birth. And I've been hosting these Q&A sessions since the beginning of lockdown to help pregnant people access information that they may not necessarily be able to get hold of with restrictions and everything that's going on at the minute. Georgina, like I said, is a qualified nutritionist, and she has studied at the College of Naturopathic Medicine in London. She has a diploma in nutritional therapy, and she's also worked and studied in food science. So she is extremely qualified, and I'm really looking forward to discussing everything to do with diet and nutrition in pregnancy. I think it's going to be a really fantastic session. Georgina, do you want to just say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks very much, Erin. So as Erin says, I'm a registered nutritional therapist. I'm based in Bromley, but I've moved online, so all my clinic work is now online, like most other people during these times. I specialise in women's health, particular interest in the perimenopausal side of things, but overall in women's health. And I help women to get back their energy, get back their vitality, help them feeling, getting to the, top optimum end of their health. And we do that through nutrition, supplementation, and lifestyle changes as well. I have 3 children myself. I had 3 very different pregnancies and 3 very different births. So I have a keen interest in all sides of supporting nutrition, pregnant women through nutrition as well. And so I'm delighted to be here this evening to chat to you.
Oh, thank you for giving up your time. It's really, really appreciated.
No problem.
So I've got a few questions to ask Georgina, but Maria, did you have any specific questions? Did you want to kick off and ask any specific questions that you have first?
Yeah, we can go back to the iron supplement.
Yeah.
Is there a way to, because I'm taking 200 mg now, advised by the midwife. Apparently I am on my lowest normal, which is 106.
Okay.
And they said I should be 110. So they order ferrone sulfate.
Ferrone sulfate, yeah. Okay.
200 milligrams, which I start today, taking today in the morning, with orange juice, they said. So
yeah.
I'm taking it, and my question is, what else can I do? Because I was vegan before getting pregnant, and now I'm eating, because I got some cravings for butter. I'm eating butter. I'm no longer vegan, but still vegetarian, and some cheese. And I've seen 3 weeks ago, I got the cervical cerclage, and I've not been gaining any weight mostly, and I'm not being very active. So so I just want to know what is I know there's no a diet to follow, but what would you suggest?
What else can you do?
Yeah.
It is very common in pregnancy because you're now requiring double the amount of blood supply to feed and grow the baby. And the iron cells use oxygen to move, throughout the cells. So you're probably feeling quite tired now as well. Lack of energy, which will be brought on by the anemia. Do you know, was it iron deficiency anemia they mentioned, or did they mention vitamin B12 or folate as well? Or is it just iron that they mentioned?
It's just iron that they mentioned.
Just iron, okay. So the one that they recommended to you is, they recommended sulfate.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
200.
Okay, so if if you find that if your iron levels haven't gone up, you can try other forms that it will be absorbed easier, and you can ask your GP to give you a prescription for that. It's ferrous biglycinate or ferrous citrate. They're absorbed better, and they don't result in constipation either. So it's ferrous BIS glycinate, GLYCINATE.
Yeah.
Or ferrous citrate, CITRATE. So, because not all forms of iron are absorbed as well into the body as others. So those two forms might be better. Other things you can do, so don't drink tea during a meal, because tea will affect the absorption of iron. Iron is better taken on an empty stomach. If you can stomach it, it will be absorbed better on an empty stomach. And don't have calcium-rich foods with high iron foods. So if you're having spinach or any high iron foods, don't have any yogurt, say for example yogurt or milk with it, because that will affect the absorption of iron as well. Taking it with orange juice is a good idea. If you're having an iron-rich meal, put some red or orange peppers with it, which will help the absorption. So it's vitamin C that's going to help the absorption of iron.
Great.
Foods that you could do, so vegetarian foods. So spinach is obviously quite high in iron. Lentils, cooked lentils. Sesame seeds are high enough in iron. Chickpeas, sunflower seeds.
Sunflower
seeds.
Oh, sunflower seeds. Yeah, I have them too.
But really, you're going to be getting most of it from that supplement. So you want to make sure that that supplement is the best one for you. So I would keep going on it. But if you find it doesn't improve, then maybe ask to change to either one of those two forms.
Great. Citrate and glycinate.
Biglycinate. So it's ferrous in front of both of those, FERROUS. And then I could probably put it on the notes here, but by BIS GLYCINATE. That's the first one, and then the second one is ferrous citrate. So either one of those two are absorbed better than the other one that you've been prescribed.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Oh, I was just going to ask Manira if she's got a question. Hi, Manira. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Oh, just keeps on going on to mute. Manira, if you've got a question, you can ask it, or if you're having problems with your audio, you can put it into the chat and I can ask on your behalf. I think she's typing. I'm going to ask a question in the meantime. What should pregnant people be eating in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy? Because obviously very early stages of pregnancy, it's quite common for pregnant people to worry about the developing baby because they're newly pregnant, particularly if it's first time being pregnant, and also sometimes they're feeling quite queasy. So what kind of foods would be a good idea to be eating in the early stages?
So, I mean, the priority at that early stage, and obviously prior to conception as well, is the folic acid or folate. So that's 400 milligrams of folic acid. So most pregnancy supplements will contain the folic acid. You can obviously get folic acid through green leafy veg, lots of greens, but it's not going to be sufficient. So you do have to take a supplement to get that 400 milligrams. You can take it on its own, or I would recommend taking it as part of a prenatal supplement, because I think a lot of people feel so unwell in that first trimester, they may not be getting the nutrients they need through diet. So taking it through a supplement is always recommended, and they're tailored for that early stages of pregnancy. Some brands that I would recommend, so the Pregnant Care is okay, the standard one you get in the pharmacy and the health food stores, but there are products out there that are cleaner, so it means they haven't got as many fillers, included in them,
Mm-hmm.
the level of nutrients would be better, and that they would be more absorbable, and hence utilized by the body. So a couple of ones I recommend, and you can get these in most health food stores, are Terra Nova, TERRANOVA prenatal, or BioCare Methyl prenatal as well. So there are a couple of brands that you could ask for in the health food store. In relation to eating well, if you feel up to it, yes, a balanced diet, that's a perfect opportunity to start nurturing your baby. So balanced diet full of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds is fantastic. It's a demanding time in those early stages. There's a lot going on. So getting a balanced diet is really, you know, a great place to start. However, a lot of people don't feel up to eating particular foods in that first trimester. So don't beat yourself up if you feel that you just cannot go near greens, where you used to like spinach, you used to like kale, and now you can't touch it. Don't beat yourself up. It's not unusual for women to have aversions in that early stages. So I would suggest doing your best, but just trying to eat what you feel comfortable. Maybe it's going to be smaller meals. Obviously, it's not a license to go and eat chocolate nonstop for the whole first trimester, but just, you know, take in what you can and be conscious of what you are eating, in the, you know, within the limits of how you're feeling as well. In relation to what you can't eat during that first trimester, would you like me to give you an outline of foods on, you know, throughout the pregnancy? There are certain foods I would steer clear of. So certain cheeses, any of the soft blue veined cheeses, rinded cheese like brie and camembert and goat's cheese, they are best avoided. They contain listeria, which is a bacteria that can be quite harmful. These are okay if they're cooked. So if they're cooked through, if you are having a nice goat's cheese and pastry, they are okay if they're cooked, but as long as they're cooked through fully. Avoid any unpasteurized milks and cheeses as well, because again, from a bacterial point of view. Be careful of raw eggs, undercooked eggs, and very soft boiled eggs as well. So just avoiding things like homemade mayonnaise, hollandaise sauces, and some mousses as well. Pâtés, again, now some of these foods, you know, if you're in your first trimester, you're not really going to be wanting to eat pâté generally anyway, but pâtés, I would avoid them throughout the pregnancy. And very raw meat or very rare meat as well. Liver is off the list, unfortunately, too. I'm not sure a lot of pregnant women would be craving liver, but it contains too much vitamin A, so it's not recommended to have liver during pregnancy. And nuts used to be considered a problem. They used to suggest that women don't eat nuts during pregnancy because of the risk of the child developing allergies. That all changed. I think it was in 2009 that all changed, and the guidance now is that it's good that the unborn child is exposed to these allergens, and that nuts are absolutely okay in pregnancy, and they make a really good healthy snack as well.
Okay, thanks.
Hope I answered that.
Yes, it's interesting what you were saying about the alternative pregnancy vitamins, because I found it took me a couple of pregnancies to realise that the pregnancy vitamins that I was taking were making my morning sickness a lot worse. And apparently my midwife told me it's actually really common with a particular brand of prenatal vitamin. It can make you feel really nauseous. So I think it's
okay.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good to name some alternatives. I've heard of BioCare because I buy their vitamins anyway, so that's really that's useful.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, that BioCare Methyl, because it's in the B vitamins, particularly the folate, is in a form that is more. A lot of people are unable to convert folate to the active form without going into too much of the science side. So that is already in the form that we need it in order to process it through the body.
Okay. Manira's just asked a question. She said she's having Pregnacare and Floridix from the beginning of pregnancy, but in her last appointment they told her iron levels were quite low, and she's been changing her diet, but the midwife gave her a prescription for ferrous sulfate tablets, and she said, is that okay? We were talking about some different supplements.
Yeah, so what we were talking about So ferrous sulfate isn't, some people cope fine on ferrous sulfate and they're absolutely fine. They don't suffer with any problems with constipation and their iron levels go up sufficiently. Other people, they struggle with ferrous sulfate. So I gave a couple of other alternatives to, was it Maria we were talking to earlier? So the other two options, I would try what they've prescribed you, and if you feel that you are suffering with constipation or if your levels don't go up in your next appointment, ask them to prescribe you ferrous citrate. So that's FERROUS CITRATE, or ferrous bisglycinate. So that's FERROUS BISGLYCINATE. So those two are better, they're easier to absorb and they won't result in any constipation. I wouldn't say that you need the Floridix alongside whatever the midwife has prescribed. It should be enough what she's given you. And a few tips that I gave earlier in relation to, don't drink tea during a meal because this can block the uptake of iron. It's better to take supplements between meals on an empty stomach. It will be absorbed better if you do that. And avoid taking tea, milk or coffee with your supplements, because again that will affect absorption. And not too high a calcium with high iron foods. So if you're having any meat, red meat, spinach, anything that's high in iron, don't have any yogurt or milk or any high calcium foods alongside it, because that will affect the absorption. And then we spoke a little bit about the different foods that are high in iron. We went into the vegetarian side, but beef is high in iron, spinach, lentils, sesame seeds, kidney beans, black beans, chickpeas and sunflower seeds are higher in iron as well. So you can, the easiest way to increase your iron is to having a few of those foods a day alongside your iron supplement as well. And having some vitamin C rich foods alongside those foods will help with the absorption. So marinating your meat in lemon juice, red or orange pepper alongside bolognese, for example, or with spinach as well, will help with the absorption of iron. And then have it rechecked. That's the most important thing. I would, don't be afraid to ask for your iron to be rechecked again, just so that you know what's happening, whether it's going up or not.
You mentioned tea. Is it safe to be drinking tea and coffee in pregnancy? Because I know lots of women worry about their caffeine intake when they're pregnant, and they just completely steer clear of tea and coffee and don't drink any.
So in relation to coffee, large quantities of caffeine. So large quantities of caffeine generally aren't recommended. There is an increased, there's increased risks and there's potential links to lower birth rate with high levels of caffeine. So taking up to 200 milligrams of caffeine a day has been seen as being safe. Now 200 milligrams, if we're going to look at what is that in a normal drink, so a regular latte or cappuccino from a cafe is between 100 and 200 milligrams. So that's really your one a day. You're looking at one a day really. If you're having an Americano's type coffee, that's between 225 and 300 milligrams. So keeping within that 200 milligrams of caffeine is generally regarded as safe. I mean, most of the time in the first trimester, women don't fancy coffee anyway. It's almost like a natural Mother Nature, ensuring that you're having an aversion to certain foods, and that's because it's quite bitter in taste. So a lot of women will go off it. There are other options out there. People often ask, is decaf acceptable? Decaf will contain a certain amount of caffeine, number one, but it contains stimulants, number two, and number three, it can also often contain solvents because they've stripped the coffee bean of caffeine using solvents. So some decaf coffees, I wouldn't recommend a decaf as a replacement. If you're trying to reduce your coffee, I would stick to just having the one a day and then looking at other options. Certain herbal teas are great during pregnancy, particularly ginger tea is quite nice for nausea in the beginning as well. So yeah, and have a look around and see what you prefer.
I suppose they've got to be careful with consumption of things like Coke and chocolate as well, because
Chocolate,
there's
yeah.
levels of caffeine in chocolate and cola drinks as well.
Yeah, it certainly all add up if you're having, if you're looking for it to keep it to 200 milligrams a day, it will certainly add up if you're having chocolate and Coke and tea or as well in there too.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a couple more questions. Shall I unmute? I'm going to unmute. Maria, do you want to ask your question? I'm just going to unmute you.
Yeah, no, I was I wanted to thank you and ask you, because you were talking about pregnant care. I was taking pregnant care during my first trimester, and then I changed to 7Cs, which has ginger and gives me, I think, it gives me less nausea, but nausea drops anyway after 12 weeks. Is this a good supplement, or should I go back to pregnant care, since my iron levels have dropped since I'm 16 weeks right now? 17 weeks.
I think you'll need the additional supplement anyway. So most of the pregnancy supplements aren't going to give you that level of iron that you need. So I would have a look in your health, if you have a health food store near you, and have a look at the range that they might have, because there are other brands out there. I'm not familiar with the 7Cs. I'm not sure of the breakdown of ingredients in the 7Cs, but some of those other ones that I've mentioned, the Terra Nova, another one called Bare Biology is a good range. I think it's called Bare Biology. I think it's called Bump and Glory is their product. These tend to come with a higher price tag, a lot of these supplements, but they're just better. They've got better dosages in them. They're cleaner label. They've got less fillers, and the nutrients are better absorbed, the forms of the nutrients that they're using. So I would have a look in the health food store, but you will likely need to keep on the other supplement, the iron supplement as well.
Okay, that's right. Thank you.
No problem.
Can I ask a small question? It's very small.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about listeria.
Yeah.
I really like hummus, but I stopped having it because I was reading it has something I cannot eat. I can't remember what. Right. Is hummus forbidden food in pregnancy?
No, hummus is fine. I mean, there was a big withdrawal of hummus actually from the supermarkets probably about 6 months ago. But that's not to say that hummus generally is a risk food. It's just that there was an issue with listeria. So that may be where you heard it from, that they did withdraw an awful lot of listeria across various brands, of hummus across various brands because of a risk of listeria. But that's not to say that hummus is generally a risk food. So I would say hummus is fine. Even if you could make it yourself, if you have the time, because at least you've made it, you've kept it in the fridge. It's a really good source of protein in pregnancy. The chickpeas are a really good source of protein. So I would have a look at making it yourself. There's some great recipes online, but otherwise, yeah, it's generally a safe food in pregnancy.
Okay, great news. Thank you.
No problem.
Manira, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I was saying that I'm 32 weeks pregnant now, and I just started with these tablets, these iron tablets. Yes. So I was wondering, my next appointment for the 36 week is when we are gonna decide if we're gonna have the birth plan.
Mm-hmm.
So they said if my iron levels don't go up by then, they will have to, I wouldn't be allowed to give birth in the birth center. So I'm not sure if I have enough time to bring my iron level up, or if I don't know.
So you're 32 weeks now, and then your next appointment is 36. When are they doing the blood test? Will they do it at 36 weeks?
I don't know. I think I have another appointment in between, but I don't know if it's face to face.
Yeah. Because if you've got 4 weeks, 4 weeks is enough time to bring up your iron levels using the supplement that they've prescribed.
Okay.
So I would have thought that would be fine to bring it up to that level. And if you really look at the high iron foods as well, but if there's a blood test in the meantime, if you've got a blood test in 2 weeks, I'm not sure whether you would get your iron levels up that quickly.
Okay.
You might do if you start, you know, if you've started. What sort of dosage do you know have they given you?
So they told me to get two tablets a day.
Okay. Do you know how much is on the quantity? How much does it say? Is it 120?
200 milligrams.
200, and they're giving you, so 2 a day. Yeah. So I think your levels will come up quite quickly if you're taking them, and if it suits you, if you know, if you're not having any problems with constipation or anything, then it should.
Well, I just started like yesterday, so I only have so far.
I would take it with a as the other girl was saying, take it with a glass of orange juice, and don't take it on an empty stomach between meals, and don't drink any tea, coffee, or milk with the supplement. And look at the high iron foods as well.
Okay, that's very helpful. I didn't know that it's better to have it before meals or with an empty stomach, which probably that makes sense, because now that I think when I've been having Floradix and other things, I was drinking it or having it
with your breakfast
very close to my, so probably that's why it's not making the same effect, but it's good to know now. Yeah.
Well, see how you get on though, because some people can't stomach supplements on an empty stomach, so you know, see how you get on with taking it on an empty stomach as well.
Okay, well, I guess it's safe for pregnancy, right?
I would say for pregnancy, no, it's been recommended, but some people just find that they can't take supplements on an empty stomach. But yeah, it wouldn't be recommended to if it wasn't safe, don't worry.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I've got another question that I was going to ask. In the first 12, well, I say first 12 weeks, but sometimes it lasts even longer than 12 weeks. But in the first trimester, quite often pregnant people feel quite sick and they have morning sickness. What can they eat to help with the nausea? Because everyone always says eat dry crackers and ginger tea, and they may help, but is there anything else like over and above the kind of standard recommendations that people could be having to help?
Okay, yeah, you're right. Well, the dry crackers, yeah, sometimes that doesn't, a lot of people, it doesn't really help, especially first thing in the morning. There are certain things that can help. So not jumping out of bed straight away in the morning could help. If you are going to try the dry crackers, try that for the morning. So have them there so you don't have to get up straight away. If there's certain foods that, certain smells that are really making you feel sick, particularly on the cooking side of things, just have, well, actually don't cook yourself, get someone else to cook for you, but maybe have cold dishes, so have salads more so than cooked meats and things like that, because sometimes it's actually the cooking that throw people, make them feel quite ill. Being nauseous in the first trimester is absolutely normal, and I think it's something like 70% of women report having those symptoms in the first trimester. Looking at if it's, so a lot of people go off things like greens and spinach and kale and things like that. Try to hide them in in meals. So having them in a dish, chopped up or even liquidized into a bolognese, so you don't actually have to see it, will help you get the nutrients that you need. If any sort of cravings side of things, which we'll probably come on to talk about as well, but if we're looking at certain cravings, it's, there are ways in which you can go around it and replace the foods that you're really craving. So for example, a lot of women crave salt crisps. So look at having lightly salted popcorn or lightly salted pretzels instead. And if you're craving ice cream, look for some Greek yogurt with some chopped berries on the top. so just trying to, be mindful of the fact that yes, there's a craving there, but not giving into it completely either, because otherwise it can, tip the balance a little bit on the nutrient side of things. In relation to nausea itself, I do have quite a few tips here. I just want to make sure I give you everything that I have. So obviously, if it's severe nausea and severe vomiting, then you'd get in touch with your midwife or GP, because that can be one of the more extreme forms of morning sickness. Taking plenty of fluids to replace, if you are vomiting, to replace any of the liquids that you're losing and any electrolytes that you're losing. Things like peppermint tea can be useful in settling stomachs. Ginger tea, a lot of people have ginger tea. And peppermint tea chilled can be quite nice, because it can be quite soothing. If you brew a pot of peppermint tea and then put it into the fridge, it can be really soothing on the tummy. Try sucking on ice cubes can help, or homemade fruit lollies made with a few strawberries. So it's just something cold that you can just suck on, can also help. A lot of women find that the travel bands that you put on your wrists, so almost like on those pressure points, are very useful as well. Not having big meals, so eating every couple of hours, so that your blood sugar levels don't drop too much, so that you do end up feeling sick, is quite useful. So having smaller meals more frequently during the day. Making sure you keep on that antenatal or prenatal supplement during that time, so that if you are if your diet isn't too great, you can't stomach a lot of food, then at least you know that you're getting the nutrients that you need as well in there. There are other things that people, a lot of people have found acupuncture is useful, as long as you can go to a registered acupuncturist. Fresh air can be helpful as well. Sometimes just giving into a particular craving can help with nausea, but just as long as you're not only eating that food for the first trimester, say, as long as there's a balance in there.
Thank you. Maria and Manira, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask?
No, I was just looking for the supplements you just mentioned, the Bam Glory and Bear Biology, but
Yeah.
I just found they are related to omega-3.
Oh, is that the fat ones? Okay. Well, what I can do is I could put together a list of prenatal supplements, if you wanted, Erin, to send through with the email afterwards, if you want.
Yeah, that would be fab. Thank you. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, because then it can give you a good idea of what's available and what levels of iron are in the.
Because is omega-3 necessary to take?
It's not essential. It just depends on your diet. It has been found to be very useful. The research has found that from the point of view of brain development in babies and postnatally for women, but it just depends on what your diet's like. So omega-3 foods are oily fish. So I know you said you were a vegan or a vegetarian now. So other sources of omega-3 are things like seeds and certain nuts as well.
The algae.
Yeah.
That is the fish. It's the algae. It comes from there.
Yeah. So the fish that are highest in omega-3, we usually say to think smash. So it's the oily fish, salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring are the highest fish in omega-3. So if you aren't taking any fish in and you feel that your omega-3 levels might be a bit low, then I would look at a supplement that includes that in it.
And I think you can get vegan omega-3 supplements as well, can't you? I'm sure I saw some. So I can't remember what it was now.
You can do. I can't think of the name of the supplement off the top of my head, but it's not from fish origin. You're right. It's not from fish origin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I can send Erin through a list of supplements.
That would be great. That would be very helpful.
No problem.
Because tomorrow I have to buy them.
No problem.
Manira, did you have another question for Georgina?
Yeah, I would like to know how many times a week, ideally, it's good to have meat. I mean, I'm not a meat person, but since, you know, I'm dealing with this problem, I have
Oh,
to eat it more. So I know that I can combine it with, you know, lentils and other things that
mm.
have iron, but I know that this is one of the strongest ways to get iron up.
Yeah, well, you can combine it though. So I mean, you wouldn't if you. I mean, if you're really not a meat lover, then I would look at the vegetable sources. But if you are willing to put meat into your diet, red meat into your diet a couple of times a week, should be sufficient. As long as, with the list of foods that I mentioned, as long as you're having a few of those foods a day from the higher iron foods as well, will definitely help. But you don't want to be forcing yourself to eat foods that you don't particularly like either. So
I like it, but it's true that I always go for fish or for, you know, like vegetables, because I like vegan food and I enjoy it. But yeah, I don't dislike beef. It needs to be in a particular way, obviously,
yeah,
but I'll make the effort. I wouldn't be.
I would look at a couple of times a week, and then looking at the other foods, you know, having a few of those portions a day would help with your iron levels as well.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
What could pregnant people eat to help with their energy levels? Because particularly as you get more and more heavily pregnant, it's obviously putting strain on your body, and lots of pregnant women feel quite tired as they get further along in pregnancy. So what could they be eating to boost their energy levels?
I would say particularly further on into pregnancy, when the energy starts to drop, start looking at smaller meals per day, more frequent meals and smaller quantities during the day to help with not only digestion, but then spacing out your energy throughout the day. Making sure that each meal has a good balance of fat, protein and complex carbs. So when I talk about complex carbs, things like white bread and white rice and white pasta aren't going to give you the sustained energy. So things like wholemeal bread, wholemeal pasta, couscous, quinoa, oat cakes are a great snack because they're a complex carb, oats in the morning, and then some form of protein with each meal. So if it is oats in the morning, making sure you have either maybe some ground flaxseed, which is also good for omega-3s, either some ground flaxseed, ground chia seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower, pumpkin seeds are all good forms of protein. They could be added to your overnight oats or your porridge in the morning, and some sort of fat source as well. So be it almond milk, or with your lunch, for example, some avocado or a drizzle of olive oil or a sprinkling of nuts. And the protein sources could be some tuna fish, eggs, tofu, hummus, just making sure that they're balanced. So you need to balance your larger meals and your snacks as well. So things like homemade energy balls are a great one to make. They keep in the fridge, and you can make a large batch of them. Hard-boiled eggs, you could hard-boil 12 eggs at the beginning of the week and have a couple of those a day. With your iron ladies though, eggs do reduce the absorption of iron, so they contain a protein that affects the absorption of iron, so don't go too heavy on the eggs. Don't cut them out by any means, but if you're having 2 or 3 a day, do look at cutting them back. So just really spacing out your meals, and then just making sure that they're really well balanced during that period as well. And water is really, really important. We often refer to it as liquid energy. It's essential throughout pregnancy because of the increased demands on the body, but just keeping that fluid intake throughout the day will help keep your energy levels up as well.
Maria and Munira, did you have any other questions for Georgina?
No, not really. About breakfast, is it good to have those packaged breakfast like cereal? Yeah, I've
Sorry.
noticed they have vitamins vitamin C, like all the vitamins, vitamin B12 and stuff. So I'm just wondering if they are good or not, because I never used to consume them, but now I'm doing it because of all the
It's the
nutrition facts.
fortified, yeah.
Yeah.
I would look at something like, if you would you take a porridge oats?
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
porridge.
I would go for porridge oats and adding something like ground flaxseed, which you can buy in the
Oh,
supermarket, which is a
black.
source of flaxseed, FLAXSEED,
Yeah,
and make sure it's ground. That's a really
ground.
good source of omega-3s as well, and you just keep it in the fridge after you open it. And then, so a tablespoon of that will have with your porridge.
Because I
Sorry, can you
guess
hear
you're
me there?
getting all of your vitamins from your prenatal vitamins, right? So the fortified cereals probably aren't necessary. Is that?
No, I wouldn't have thought they're necessary, and also they tend to have they don't often contain very complex carbs, and they tend to have added sugar as well.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to fill you up for very long, unfortunately.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Did she lose connection there?
No, she's still there.
She's still there. So adding that flaxseed, a tablespoon of flaxseed to porridge in the morning. It will also help with. It's very high in fibre as well, so it will help with any constipation issues as well. And so a good recipe for a morning for if you're pregnant is oats. You can make this the night before and leave it in the fridge. So about 40-50 grams of oats, tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a teaspoon of cinnamon, which is great for keeping your blood sugar regulated. You could add a small handful of frozen berries to that as well, and about a tablespoon of sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds, and then top it up with whatever milk you're using, and then just cover it and keep it in the fridge, and then you can heat it up the next day, and that makes for a really, really balanced breakfast. You can add banana to that instead of the berries, but it'll just give you a good rounded breakfast, which will keep you full for the morning, and it's a really good source of fiber as well.
So you keep it overnight in the fridge?
You can leave it overnight. The only reason it just it absorbs the milk, and it makes it quite, it makes it more palatable in the morning. You don't have to leave it overnight, but it just makes it sometimes quicker to cook as well. But you can make it in first thing in the morning as well. It's not going to affect the quality at all. No, just depends. You give it a try and see what you like.
Yeah, I think I've done that before, but I didn't like the smell. But I didn't put them in the fridge. I left them outside. Maybe that's one.
We can't hear you very well, Maria. You're quite muffled.
I think you took your earphones off, did you?
Yeah.
Maybe that was better with you.
Saying yeah, I did that before, but I didn't like the smell. I'm gonna try it in the fridge.
Yeah, try it in the fridge, and yeah, I think that would I would feel that would be more beneficial than the Cheerios. You're getting the supplements you need, as Erin was saying, through the multivitamin, and also they often have a lot of added sugar to it, which you don't need.
Yes, a lot of sugar. That's one. Yeah, good, thank you.
Sometimes when I make my overnight oats, I grate an apple in there as well. That's quite nice. A grated apple.
Yeah, it's really nice actually. Even grated apple is nice as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Grated apple. That's a good idea.
So as Erin was saying, I've written an ebook which we'll be sharing at the end, which I have some breakfast ideas in that as well, which are all suitable for pregnancy. So the smoothies and the overnight oat recipes in that book as well. So she's going to share that with you at the end.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll send the link round along with the prenatal vitamin list after the session, so that you have you can download the ebook and get all of the information on the vitamins as well. I've got one more question. I always tell my clients when they're preparing for hospital to pack several bags for hospital. So they have one for the pregnant person and a separate bag for the birth partner, and then a bag for the baby. What should they be packing in particularly the pregnant person's bag, because obviously they're going to have a huge expenditure of energy during labour, and what they eat and drink is going to be quite important. And I know a lot of people tend to probably put quite high sugary foods in there, or bottles of Lucozade and things, and I'm suspecting it's probably maybe not the ideal thing, or there may be alternatives that they could be packing in their hospital bag for eating and drinking.
Yeah, so I think probably the idea of the Lucozade is you often crave something cold and fizzy at that stage, and I think so yeah, the Lucozade, you know, if you want to look for alternatives for that, I'm thinking things like sparkling water with some chopped fruit in the bottom of it, a light smoothie. Obviously, these things would have to be made in advance, bought in, but it's not something you could store in your bag for long periods. But a smoothie made using coconut water it would be really good for replacing any fluids, you know, lost, particularly reducing the risk of dehydration. So a gentle smoothie with, say, some frozen berries. You could try half a banana in there as well. And if you could stomach, obviously spinach and kale would be fantastic in there, because that's all going to help with nutrients, but it might not be tolerated during labour. So really, I think in keeping it quite light, you know, the berries and the coconut water. You could make what I call a trail mix. So a box of trail mix, which is things like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. Goji berries are great because they're not as high in sugar as, say, raisins. Some chopped nuts, any nuts, whichever nuts you fancy. And you could put some cow nibs in there as well, which give a little bit of a bitter flavour to them, but they're rich in magnesium as well, which is really useful. So it's not as high sugar as, say, a bag of mixed nuts and dried fruit that you would get in the supermarket. Again, the energy balls, I have a lot of recipes I've shared on my social media side, and I think there's a recipe in the ebook as well for energy balls. You can make them in bulk and keep them in the fridge. They're fantastic. Whole grain crackers, any cakes, even a pot of hummus if you're allowed to bring a pot of hummus in. And I mean, things like if you are labouring at home, ice lollies, homemade ice lollies or ice sorbets kept, you know, in the freezer, and then as and when needed, because they're really cold and they're ideal in labour, but obviously only practical really if you're labouring at home. So I would say, yeah, and then, you know, any fruits, chopped fruits, containers of chopped fruit such as watermelon, yellow melon would be fantastic as well.
That's fantastic, thank you. Did you want to just to mention your ebook, because you did mention that there's a free ebook that you were going to share with everybody?
Yes, so the ebook is it's the Hormone Reset 7-day meal plan, which I wrote, and it's all geared towards supporting women's hormones at any stage in life. So the recipes are all balanced to give those nutrients that are needed to be able to support hormone production. So it's ideal, all the recipes are ideal in pregnancy as well. The ebook contains a full shopping list for 7 days of meals of breakfast, lunch and dinner, and there's some snack recipes in there as well. So some great ones there for breakfast, breakfast smoothies, and the overnight oat recipes in there too, and also some recipes for batch cooking now. If you're in your second or third trimester, fantastic time to batch cook now and keep the food in the freezer for after the baby's born as well. So you're going to share that link. It's just, yeah, you just sign up for the ebook and it'll be sent to your inbox. So it's all electronic.
Thank you. I think I'm going to have to sign up for that as well. I think it's batch cooking. I think is, even after pregnancy, it's a really good idea, because once you have a 1, 2, 3, or however many small children around, it becomes really hard to find time to cook decent meals. I'm absolutely sick and tired of my own cooking, so you get stuck in a rut eating the same things and ordering, especially because I do my food
I
shopping
know.
online. I just kind of repeatedly order
The
same things all the time and eat the same things all the time. So I think a meal refresh would be probably quite a good, well received thing in my house. So I'll be downloading the book as well.
No problem. It's there for taking.
Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up? No? Georgina, was there anything else that you wanted to cover before we finish?
No, I think we've gone through quite a bit. Obviously, you could keep talking on this subject for a few hours, really, but I think we've covered the main aspects.
Fab. Well, thank you so much for your time, and Miriam and Manira, I hope you found it really useful. I will email you all after this session with the supplements that Georgina has recommended, as well as the link to download her ebook. And good luck with the rest of your pregnancies and with your births.
Thanks very much for having me, Erin, and take care, ladies. I'll email you shortly with the supplement list so that you can include it.
Yes, please. Thank you, Georgina.
No problem at all. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Nice meeting you. Great book.
Best of luck. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.